Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash, expert in health and longevity and creator of Bogash Life and Balance. And today we're going to talk about, well, actually, I'm not going to talk about, well, yes, I am going to talk about probiotics and COVID and all respiratory tract infections as well. But rather than pointing out again how much the microbiome plays a role in outcomes, I'm also going to give some ideas of things that you can do to build your microbiome. And so just to point this out again, because this is another study that shows that the links between our own bacterial defenders, whether we have them or not, plays a role in COVID outcomes. And this was a study out of Germany. And basically, what the study showed is that COVID outcomes were no accident, which I've been saying from day one, that we're going to look back and we're going to realize that this was not random, that everything that COVID did was not some mysterious crazy stuff. It did exactly what we expected it to do based on the underlying health of whoever happened to get exposed, which I've also said from the very beginning was going to be all of us. So it just boils back down to how important it is to have a healthy microbiome. So in this, there was 86 COVID patients compared to 21 post-COVID patients. 11 pneumonia controls and 26 controls that were not sick at all. And there were a couple things that they found, but the real take-home message is that they could predict COVID outcomes based on the bacteria that were present in these people, both the oral, the mouth bacteria, and the gut bacteria. The less diversity they had, which is something I hammer on again and again and again. We need diversity in our gut. We want 1,000 species growing there and not 100. The less diversity, the greater the number of complications, including death, which I guess would be considered a complication. So if you haven't gotten the message by now, I don't really know what to tell you, but the real thing is that we need to protect and we need to live our life every day as if we're building our microbiome. And the top of the list is stop with the freaking antibiotics when they're not needed. My gosh, I have some patients that don't go 6 months without a course of antibiotics. It's been over 30 years for me since I had a course of antibiotics, and that was back before I knew what I knew. And even then, it was probably a single course of antibiotics I probably had for my wisdom teeth out. But we just give antibiotics for everything, and including COVID. Z-Paks were given out like there was no tomorrow for viral infections with no indication of a bacterial infection. Now, if somebody's got a septic infection or a kidney infection they couldn't control, like osteomyelitis, there's no real discussion there. But for the average scenario, ear infections, upper respiratory tract infection, where there's no evidence of a bacterial infection, then we need to avoid them because we need to understand how much they destroy diversity. And in case I didn't say that, and you didn't hear it, antibiotics destroy diversity. Years later, your microbiome has not recovered from a single course of antibiotics. So if somebody is taking antibiotics once every 6 months, once a year, you're never going to have a healthy microbiome, period. So we need to work on restoring it, and the key thing is to stop destroying it. 5 other things. Increase your intake of prebiotics. Those are things that will support the growth of the bacteria we want. These are things like berries, pomegranates, so I guess be considered berries, but berries contain phytonutrients which are known to support the growth of healthy bacteria. Whole grains have fibers in them that will support I know carbs are evil, but whole grains hold out pretty well in the medical research. Things like artichokes. There's certain vegetables, artichokes, asparagus, garlic, onions that have fibers that will support the growth of the bacteria we want growing. Nuts. Raw nuts, I'm okay with dry roasted, but no added oils. If there's added oils, throw them out because that's going to completely undo the health benefits we're looking for. along those lines, spices and seasoning, live up. Eat. If you're eating the same foods again and again and again, and the idea of going out for something completely outside of your burgers and french fries, like, that's not building a healthy microbiome. You're just building probably the same crappy bacteria that aren't going to protect you, and they're going to be pro-inflammatory when it comes time to getting a respiratory infection. So livening up our foods with all kinds of different spices and seasoning. Exercise, yes. Exercise will help build the healthy bacteria in your gut, as will sunlight exposure. Get out of the house, get some sun. I had a patient in yesterday that had not been out of the house in some 20 days or so. And we certainly had the conversation about getting her white butt out of her home and out and getting some sunlight. And cutting calories, taking in too many calories can actually lead to the growth of pro-inflammatory bacteria that we do not want. You notice I didn't say probiotics. It's likely that probiotics are actually acting as prebiotics, because a healthy functioning digestive system will probably break down most of those, unless they're encapsulated, but most of them are not. And so what probably happens is our digestive system kills off these bacteria, but the remnants of them are taken down as prebiotics later in the gut and are designed to help support the growth of bacteria that we want there. So the take-home message is, if you want to protect yourself from infections, build up the bacteria that are going to be protective and your warriors. So, as always, I'll post a link to this particular study in the description. Make sure you like this video, share it with somebody who you think needs the information, and subscribe to the channel.